Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Lisbon. My name is Ralph Karlström and I'm the president of EPMA, and I have the pleasure to give you an overview of the status and the trends of the European powder metallurgy industry. Right, and we will start to have a look at the GDP development in important regions. Right, and I think you all remember that we have a hefty recovery back in 2021 after COVID, but the war in Ukraine and the late recovery in China then sort of hampered the growth in 2022. And the predictions then for 2023 is a bit more mixed, so to say, and partly depending on the inflation that is going on. And it's expected to drop from 8.8% to 6.6% in this year, and then come down to 4.3% in 2024, according to IMF. So all these figures come from IMF. Okay, and then we move over to the metal powder production figures. I need to push harder. And then overall, we had then a decrease with 8.4% to 220,000 tons. And powders for part production then decreased with around 7%, then down to 177,000 tons. And if you look at the overall uses then, there was a split picture between iron and steel powders and non-ferrous powders. So non-ferrous powders is not down as much as the iron and steel powders. If we then look by application, we see that press and sinter is by far the biggest application area, followed by HIP. And I think the hard metal areas is a bit underrepresented in this survey. So then we move over to what the parts producers say instead. And here we have a little bit different picture. So again, press and sinter combining then non-ferrous and ferrous is by far the biggest application area. And now we also have a higher share of hard materials. So it's depending on how many people are participating in these surveys that we offer by EPMA. So the more you has a chance to participate, the better data and statistics we will have. Another thing that sticks out there is that AM by tonnage is increasing 25%, which I think is very impressive. If we look at it by value, then we have an increase of around 5% in 2022, and we are close to 13 billion euros in revenue. And the biggest sector here is by far hard materials and diamond tools, total and 46%. And due to the value of cobalt, for instance, the high value of cobalt. And we also see that all segments are up in revenue, with except them from structural parts. Then we look at press and sinter a bit more in detail. And this is mainly goes into automotives. So therefore we also look at automotive production. But here we are down 3% to 154,000 tons in 2022. And if we look at car production then, we are up to 10.9 million cars produced in 2022, which is 8.4% up. And normally we have sort of a direct link between powder consumption and automotive production, but not anymore. So if there is anyone who sort of can help us to explain this in a better way, we are grateful. So this is something that we are looking into further. Right. If we then look at car registration by type from 2018 to a little fly who wants to participate. From 2018 to 2022, we see then that battery and electrical cars and hybrid cars are gaining share then quite dramatically on behalf of diesel and petrol car or gasoline. So they were, in 2022, the share then was 44.1%. And for the first half of 2023, then it's increased to 45.2%, actually. Right, and this is, of course, partly driven then by legislation. And the Commission then adopted this latest legislation here in March this year, basically saying that from 2035 we should have a zero emission on the cars that are offered then. And there should be a reduction to 2030 versus 2021 with 55% for cars and with 50% for vans. And also important here, I think, to notice that ACA, who is sort of the trade organization for the automotive producers, that they sort of welcomes this legislation. It gives them clear rules and directions for the future. Right? So when we see that hybrid and electric cars are gaining more market share or becoming very successful in the future, what's in it for us? And I think that we talked about even last year then that the acquisition of Yasa Motor by Daimler. And Yasa Motor then developed this axial field motor or pancake motor for over 10 years. And it's a motor that is characterized by high torque and low weight. And it can contain powder components. And Daimler continue then this year and invest in this technology, saying that this is a major part of the strategy going forward. So all these new drives then, they need batteries in the future. And there are more than 50 gigawatts battery plants being planned or announced up to 2030 in Europe. And 38 of those has a capacity of more than 2 gigawatt hour. So it's an enormous capacity that is coming. And now they say that the combined capacity will be 1.8 terawatt hour of these 50 plants then to 2030. And 2 years ago, they said it would be 1 terawatt hour. So this is an area that things are happening very fast. And we actually have some of our members who have announced that they see opportunities in this area. Right, and then we are moving over to the hard material sector, which growth both in terms of tonnage and in terms of revenue. So it's divided here in hard metal for carbide tool steels and then diamond tool steels. And as we heard earlier this morning, this is something which is used everywhere in all application areas. Machining is needed. It's a sector which has been very successful over the years. It's innovative. It focuses on R&D, and it has been very active in EPMA's club project over the years. The aerospace industry are of importance for us, so therefore we look at the deliveries of commercial aircraft, where there are statistics available. And we had a hefty drop there in 2020, but after that we've seen a nice recovery. And this is a segment then which is important for AM, for MIM, for HIP, and then also for hard materials. And the order books are in a good status, so to say, for the future. MIM is another interesting focus area for us. And here we have, during the last 15 years, seen a nice development. MIM parts are characterized by being small and with an offering an intricate shape. And in Europe it differs a bit because automotive is a quite important area, unless or compared to US and Asia, for instance. Right, and then we move to HIP. And HIP showed a growth in 2022 with a little bit more than 7% then. And I think the overall future is positive for HIP. And there are growth in many, in several sectors. And when the Euro HIP members do the trend survey, there are some areas which are identified then as being future growth areas. And one is oil and gas and energy. It's tolling, it's medical, but it's also future small modular reactors, so nuclear reactors. And it's, of course, this HIP is depending upon then on oil exploration, so that's why we show the oil price development here, and it's on a high level, if I put it like that. AM continued to grow, 25% by tonnage and 11% in terms of revenue. It also grows in terms of services and in sales of machines. And here we use statistics from AM Power, and we will learn more later on by Matthias Schmidt-Lehr, who is a little bit delayed today. So I think that will be very interesting. And then I will end with a little bit look into the future. And one interesting area then is small modular reactors. And the map show on the top right side here shows different plans for future reactors. And there is actually one commercial reactor being constructed. It's ordered by Ontario Power Generation, built by GE Hitachi. And the interesting thing here is that it should be up running within 24 to 36 months, which is very quick. The latest large commercial reactor built in Finland took between 10 to 15 years to construct. So in that perspective, this is very fast. It's a small reactor, it's 300 megawatts, and it's a conventional boiling reactor, but still it's fast. And the Electric Power Research Institute in US, they focus a lot on finding powder applications for these future reactors. And they claim that there's a need for around 300 new reactors up to 2050 on top of the already existing one that we have. And another interesting area then is hydrogen production. And we had a plenary talk a few years ago that from IFAM in Germany that indicated that there are some possibilities for metal powders in these type of applications. So they're PEM-based, alkaline, and solid oxide electrolyzers. And one of the goals here is to get the cost down, so from $2 per kilo today to down to $1 per kilo to 2030. And there is an alliance, a hydrogen alliance formed in EU back in 2020. And they claim today, and this alliance then encompasses the whole hydrogen value chain. And they claim today that they have 840 projects ongoing related to hydrogen. So I think that's a very interesting topic for the future. And with that, I will end. Thank you very much for your attention.